everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. If you've ever struggled with people who drain you, then do we have the Dodging Energy Vampires show for you. Today I'll be talking with Dr. Christiane Northrup, a New York Times best-selling author, visionary pioneer in the field of women's medicine, and the author of a liberating new book, Dodging Energy Vampires. And that's just what I want to talk with her about today, about evading relationships that drain you and restoring your health and your power. That plus we'll talk about Jerry Maguire, Private Ryan, Tibetan monks and diabetes, violet flames and magic gardens, Alexi Kenny and Piazzolla, and what in the world 3 and microcore paper tape and sleep has to do with... And Chris, I actually do sleep that way myself. So welcome back to the show, Chris. Are you ready to shine?
I am completely ready to shine, and look at us. We are aglow in brilliant spring yellow.
I love it. I love it. So before we get to the paper tape, that'll be much later. How did you come to start thinking about energy vampires?
This is right out of my own life. This is like drawn, you know, when the movie says based on real events.
Yep.
I could have called the book Dodging Energy Vampires an autobiography. And I knew from my work in medicine that in psychiatry, there's a group of people called cluster Bs. Believe me, I don't know what A and C are, but I know what cluster Bs are. In the DSM-5, the manual of psychiatric conditions, there's this thing called cluster Bs. And I'd certainly had my run-ins with these people in my medical practice, but I also realized that in my own personal life, I had one after the other people to whom I gave the benefit of the doubt and who I overgave to, and they undergave to me. So that if I had a relationship where I was giving 90% and they were occasionally throwing me a crumb, I would think that I had a balanced relationship. And all that had to do with was my childhood, like all of us empaths, where we're born into families where we think that in order to be liked by them, like Matt Kahn says, you have to be like them. And I was never like them. So by the age of about 3 to 4, I had made a decision that something was wrong with me. So I had to work for love, to earn it, because I wasn't like them. I'm still not like them. I'm like me. And then it's a long road back to myself. And I'm hoping that through this book, will help people get out of relationships where they're not honored before 24, 25, 30 years has gone on, where you keep trying to get the love you never got as a kid.
I'm nodding my head. There have been several relationships. The longest was my first long-term relationship, 6.5 years. And I don't want to pick on her, but she was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder.
Well, who else would go for that? It would be a good guy. I mean, I can
save her, Chris. I can save her.
No. There are one of my callers, her mother, they just brought her mother up from Florida. And she said, well, you know, my mother's very difficult. She's been married 7 times. You good guys think that you can save these women, and then you become this desiccated husk by the side of the road. It takes you a while to even recognize a good woman, because that wonderful hero instinct is, my God, I can save this woman. And you can't.
and in the process, we lose ourselves and we forget our self-worth, saying, well, if they're not seeing us worthy, because we're trying everything we can do to please, everything we can do to get the love that we need from them, because we're not worthy to them, we're not worthy. So why would we even leave this relationship? Because who else is going to want this poor slove of an unworthy soul?
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. So here's what these people know, and I think took me a long while. You're not chosen, you're targeted. They see you coming, and they know that you're going to give them narcissistic supply until you wake up, and then they're with someone else in 15 minutes. And you say to yourself despairingly, oh my God, I mean, did they ever love me? And the answer is no. No. But okay, let me just be clear, because it's this kind of show. I believe that on a spiritual level, they are our biggest teachers.
Absolutely.
They're angels in disguise. I dedicated in the acknowledgments of the book, that was my very first line, to all the energy vampires in my life, thank you. Without you, I would never be who I am today. So let me be clear on that. I'm not judging them, but I am saying this. There's a difference between being judgmental and having good judgment. And we empaths, we healers, need to learn the lessons of taking care of and loving ourselves. So if we were talking about anemia as a doctor, then to treat anemia, you have to do two things. You got to have more iron to make more hemoglobin, and you have to stop the bleeding. So if you're in relationship with an energy vampire, you got to stop the bleeding, or you're never going to get your blood volume, your energy level up to where it should be. And here's the awful thing. On some level, they know this, and this is the work of Dr. George Simon, and he said, you need to think of it as this. They are fighting for control. They're trying to get you in the defensive position by making you feel bad about yourself. We empaths are often born with an inferior ego. We keep our ego alive by looking for things to improve about ourselves. And so someone can string us along forever with that. Well, I would be fine if you would just lose 10 pounds. Or in one of my patients who had breast implants, she was told by her boyfriend, I could get it up if your boobs were bigger. And so she got these double D implants and then fell into this enormous depression. Of course, because her body knew, hey, this dog won't hunt. This is not going to work. And so that's what this book is really about. It's to take a group of people, the empaths, the people who don't know where they end and another person begins, teach them that they are light workers, that all they have to do is be the air purifier that they are. They don't need to be a human lint roller to take up all the crap from everybody. It's our job to finally realize that we count, and it's our energy that is setting up the planet for the next stage, for ascension. We've been put down. We've been the ones, especially the old souls, pushed off the mountain, burned at the stake, hanged, buried alive, because we always had this light, this understanding of energy. And so if we look globally at energy vampires, that's the military-industrial complex, which Stephen Greer has talked so eloquently about in his book, Unacknowledged. So Unacknowledged is about the sort of global vampires. Dodging energy vampires is more about the personal people in your life, like your mother, your husband, your sister, maybe your child, or your boss. But the dynamic is the same, which is that we stop feeding them with our fear, with our anger, with our life energy. You just stop paying attention to them.
So how do we take an assessment? Because if you're in a relationship, whatever that relationship is, with an energy vampire, although you're exhausted, you're withdrawn, you think it's you, because inherently you think it's you, you may not think they're an energy vampire. And if you're like me, I do love everybody equally. I want to keep my distance from some people, but I love everybody.
Yes, and this is the truth. Okay, so I'm going to tell you about a certain group of empaths who are particularly vulnerable, and I would say you're in that group. Okay, we're the ones with super traits, and this is based on the work of Sandra Brown and research at Purdue University. She was doing psychiatric groups for narcissists. And then she began to realize that there was, and they didn't get better. They just did not get better. She began to run groups for women who were in relationship with narcissists. And she said what she'd been taught was that these women were codependent. They were rescue addicts. They had learned helplessness. And she said, but when I was not in the public welfare system and in the private sector, I found that there was a whole group of women with super traits of loyalty, resourcefulness, optimism, can do. These were not learned helplessness people. These were CEOs. These were federal judges. These were doctors. These were people who ran their own companies. They were successful in every other area of their life except one, and that would be in the intimate relationship area. That's because they we see the red flags in someone, but here's the deal. It goes back to you. I love everybody. We see the red flags, but we think, because we're so good at uplifting, we think we can save them. We see their potential, and we see the potential that might not be developed for 500 lifetimes. But you still see it because you do see the God in everyone. And this is not a bad thing. But our lesson is that you have to understand that if you're giving more than they're giving, then they're just using you as their source. Your source is God or your higher self. My source is God or my higher self. Their source is you. They are the mistletoe on an oak tree, which will eventually kill the tree. They are a parasite. And we have to learn our biggest lesson, which is love yourself first. And we often don't feel worthy of that. We think something's wrong with us, so we have to overgive to compensate for that little kid who was completely misunderstood in a family, very often with at least one energy vampire. So that's our job.
Do we all have, or is it common at least to have, like maybe you can share about your childhood and like what happened at 12 because you had to be somebody else?
Yes. Yeah. So here's my childhood. So, I'm born into a family where my mother is a Sagittarius, and her idea of fun is 5 sports a day: tennis, golf, mountain climbing. Every vacation was a 40-pound backpack, climbing up a mountain, being cold and wet. She would enter me in ski races because she really felt that every one of us needed to be an Olympic level athlete. And my father, I remember this, he said, we noticed in you early on a tendency to want to sit by the fire and read books. Okay, so therefore, we had to do everything in our power to make sure that who you really were never got, it just never got nurtured. So I have a sister who was on the U.S. Olympic ski team, brothers who were ski racers, all of that. And so now this is not their fault. I just got the idea that something was wrong with me because I didn't want to be cold and wet. And then also on the vacations, where you do the 5,000-foot mountain, and they'd say, it's worth it. When you get to the top, the view is worth it. And every time I'd get to the top, I'd go, this isn't worth it. I could watch this on the National Geographic Channel and sit by the fire and read books. So it took me years and years to understand that nothing was ever wrong with me. So I married my mother, and, it's just what happens as a soul grows. But then what did I do? I had a series of business relationships with energy vampires. I had my own version of Harvey Weinstein. Never had sex with him, but this was a business associate who was desperately trying to get me into bed with him. And I thought I needed this kind of person to develop this aspect of my business. I had no idea, none. So when the Harvey Weinstein thing came out, I was turning backflips. Finally, in our culture, a group of women were believed, because in my practice in the 80s, women would sit down and they would start to cry, and I'd hear their histories. 1 in 3 women is raped or abused in her lifetime. We don't even know the numbers with men because, men are really taught not to talk about this stuff. And my colleagues said to me, oh, we only see normal women. You see all the nuts. So my whole life, I'm also interested in crystals, tarot cards, angels, past lives, Edgar Cayce. Do you think that that's acceptable talk at Dartmouth Medical School? Not really. So you're constantly hiding who you really are because you just think it's not acceptable. Plus, if you've been burned at the stake for several lifetimes, you learn to keep your mouth shut. There we are.
And on that note, I've got to go there. Mark Willin and ancestors and secondary PTSD.
You got it. That we get in our DNA. We get the trauma of the generations before us. And that is our job, to human alchemy, to transmute that darkness into joy. Everyone gets their own amount. So everyone has to do this work. That's why they're listening to your show. That's why I wrote the book. It was my karmic job. And this book is very short. And I feel like it's as upstream as I can possibly go with my work as a doctor, because here's the deal. Many people in relationship with energy vampires develop so-called autoimmune disease. So in Sandra Brown's workshops, her retreats, 75% of the women have autoimmune disorders: lupus, arthritis, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, sarcoidosis, all of those things. Now, Anthony William, the medical medium, who's my friend, points out that the body does not make antibodies against itself, that medicine doesn't understand this. But what's happening is cellular inflammation. That's the root cause of cancer, heart disease, all chronic disease. Cellular inflammation. It's really your body saying, this situation you're in here, this is not working. So imagine you're eating perfectly. You're doing green juice. You're doing yoga. You're doing everything. And you're still not healing. And so what I've found is in every case, the woman's living with an energy vampire who's draining her. Yeah.
How does the woman or guy, because it can be guys at about 25%, I guess, if we're looking at the people with super traits.
Right.
How do we start to take an assessment and start to notice this?
Okay, the first thing you notice is, how does your body feel around this person? So one of the first things that you can do is you'll find out that around this person, you're suddenly sleepy. You think you need to take a nap. It's the weirdest experience. Now, you probably will not notice this, so I'm telling you this. You walk into a room, you're with someone, and you suddenly think, oh my God, I'm going to have to take a nap. And you don't associate it with the fact that someone's literally draining your energy. And you also don't get that you're unconscious about it, because that probably happened throughout your entire childhood. So you pay attention to your body. You pay attention to your gut. Let me ask you this. At this point in your life, if you ran into a woman like your first relationship, do you now have radar where you'd go, oh yeah, I recognize that?
I would hope I would run like hell. And my guess is yes. But now I coach a lot of people, and I love everybody I coach. But I can, and I can put some force field up. And this is a very professional relationship. But I do know when most of the time, I'm up afterwards because I'm plugged in, I'm tapped into source. And other times, I am just exhausted.
That's it. And you're a professional, so you already know what you have to do going into it. Mm-hmm. I mean, you've puffed up your aura, you've put the golden orb around you, you've got mirrors pointing outward, and all that stuff. And one of my friends, Bob Palumbo, is a clinical psychologist who's worked for years with men who've been sexually abused by priests. And he said to me, you need to understand that with a really skilled psychopath, especially if they're charismatic and good looking, he said, I can still be sucked in. So it's important for all of us to realize we can be sucked in, but you need to understand that if they always look good, and here's what you usually find, the energy vampire takes care of themselves. They always look good. They always make sure that they have vacation. In fact, they're usually only happy on vacation when someone else is paying. They're really good about that. And then they puff up and they can be charismatic and fun. But notice what happens when your energy is no longer on them. They often become a deflated balloon. I had that happen with a friend, and she was here in my house, and no one was paying attention to her. She had nothing to say. She was a deflated balloon. It's the weirdest thing. So notice that. So notice, can this person, the energy vampire, be alone? Or are they always, they're usually surrounded by drama. So one that was in my life, she used to say to me, you won't believe what happened when you were away. And then we're starting with the drama. And when I finally got her out of my life, for 2 solid years, I would notice that there was no drama. Because here's the thing, for an empath, if you have that degree of drama, something's really going on. There's a world war, there's something else. But no, these people create drama because there's a term I want everyone to know: narcissistic supply. Mm-hmm. That is the energy source that vampires live on. Narcissistic supply is money, attention, looking good is huge. That is like a huge thing for them. Looking good, fame. You know, anyone who says, I want to be rich and famous, it's like, that's not a worthy goal. That's a terrible goal because there's nothing there. I had my own little amount of fame. It's not like a movie star, but I've been enough around real celebrities to know that's not worth anything. What's worth something is who's there when you're in trouble in the middle of the night. You know, who's there in your home? Are you surrounded by friends who don't care what you look like? So you got to notice about narcissistic supply. I just got an email from a woman who said, I'm married to an energy vampire, so I've done that exercise you said, which is gray rock. You become a gray rock. So you're not giving off any energy. And she said, I feel when I do it like I'm being a bitch, but it's really working. It's like they stop draining you and they go elsewhere.
I love it. So we talked about it briefly with Anthony William, and he is awesome. And I did my green celery smoothie or green celery juice this morning,
Right.
AKA the medical medium. What is it doing to our body to have somebody like this in our lives?
Okay. We are energy beings. And I think everyone knows that by now, but you can see it with Kirlian photography and even dowsing rods. We have an energy field that goes out from us around about 8 feet. However, if someone's making you feel bad about yourself, if they're criticizing you, let me give you an example. So I was working with a body worker and he was trying to make me become more physical. Like, he said, there's these worlds, there's the mental, there's the emotional. So he wanted me to be more athletic, more physical. And so he did it by telling me, you're a weakling, you're this, you're that, I looked at him and I'm going to give him another name. I said, Larry, you're really going to have to do better than that to motivate me, because I grew up in a family where I was constantly shamed for my lack of sports skills, for my lack of, let's go out and run. So I said, I am so immune to that. So I found that funny. But as long as we still have a place where they can hook us, mm-hmm. then what happens is that becomes a leak in your energy field. Now, if we were to measure it, and I'm sure we're going to find the way to do this by measuring levels of ATP created in the mitochondria, yeah. then we would see that literally the emotional energy of giving from your heart to this person to make them feel better. Because here's the other thing about an empath. I have a healer friend, and she said to me, as a little kid, I felt everybody's pain. And I would say, could you please feel better so I don't have to be miserable? So you need to understand that you're transmuting darkness with a capital D. That's what your body does as an empath. Here's the misunderstanding. It doesn't mean you have to earn love. It just means you have to be the human air purifier that you are. If you think it means I have to do more, be more, give more, then you're taking your life energy, which is all we have, and you're giving it away so it's not even available to recreate your bone marrow, to create red blood cells and the immune system. It's not available to do autophagy, which is to recycle the old cells. It's just not available. And this is why you can see somebody who's in relationship with an energy vampire. And I see this at Walmart all the time. So here's how it usually looks. You got a guy who looks like $1 million. It could be the opposite, a woman who looks like $1 million. And then the schlubby one is pushing the cart with the kids. They look completely downtrodden. The other one looks like $1 million. She or he, they are literally letting the other person take their life energy. You know, there's a scene in The Color Purple. So if this generation has not yet seen The Color Purple, it's worth seeing, because there's a scene where I think it's Whoopi Goldberg's character, who's been sexually abused for years, and then she was kept away from her sister, who she loved. She finally is loved by a woman called Shug, and she realizes that this abuser has kept Shug's letters from her sister's letters, for years. And she gets this wonderful, healing, righteous indignation. Not a place to live, but a very important, like this. She rises up at the dinner table. I wanted to have like a continual loop of this playing in my office way back in the day. And she says to him, played by Danny Glover, "You touch me again, and your life will rot." And he never touches her again, because that's how it is. When you truly stand up in your power. Same thing happened with Ike and Tina Turner. Tina Turner left Ike with one dime. And she was doing, at that point, Buddhist meditation. And she just looked at him out in the parking lot. "Okay, hit me. Go ahead, hit me." Because they are cowards inside. There's no real courage inside. They're just using other people.
Om Mani Padme Hum.
Yeah, that's the one.
So on that note, a perfect segue. Tell us about Tibetan monks and diabetes.
This is really interesting, and I learned this from Dr. Mario Martinez, who's worked with many people to help them with diabetes. Okay, this is like really important for your crowd, and mine too. All right, we've all been taught we are all one. In their hearts, everyone is love. Only hurt people hurt people. We all believe this. We are the bodhisattvas. We're the compassionate people. And therefore, the Tibetan monks believe in loving kindness. Mm-hmm. You know, the inner smile, your loving kindness to your kidneys, loving kindness to your lungs, loving kindness. Well, the Chinese came in and pretty much destroyed the Tibetan culture. I was working with a Tibetan monk in Chile this past year, mm-hmm. and his father spent 7 months escaping from the Chinese, and that's why Yeshe became a monk. And he told me the whole story. It's horrendous. But if you're a monk, you're taught loving kindness is the response. The problem with that is when you're going right to loving kindness without first feeling the anger. And I'm not saying you have to stay in the anger, but you sure have to feel it as jet fuel. If you don't feel it and you go right into love,